Guys, you are not gonna believe what just happened in Sweden. It's like their politicians are literally positioning themselves for the US election, and it's getting crazy. I mean, the US election is the biggest political story in Sweden this week, as it is everywhere. In his Politics in Sweden column, Nordic editor Richard Orange explains how Sweden's political parties are reacting to it. You might think that the storming of the U.S. Capitol building 4 years ago and U.S. President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election would be enough. But Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and his Foreign Minister Maria Malmer Stenergard have studiously avoided expressing support either for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. The Swedish government must have a good relationship with the United States regardless of who is president, Malmer Stenergard explained on SVT's Agenda News program on Sunday. Social Democrat leader Magdalena Andersson, on the other hand, has come fully out for Harris, traveling to the Democrat Party's National Congress last month and posting up a picture of her and Harris together on Monday with the words, "We are the resistance." Social Democrat Party Secretary Tobias Bodan was even out in the U.S. this week knocking doors for the Dems. Andersson argued in SVT's Agenda program that backing Hillary Clinton in 2016 hadn't stopped the then Social Democrat Prime Minister Stefan Löfven from establishing a good relationship with Trump. Afterwards, the last moderate Prime Minister Fredrik Reinfeldt had also taken sides, she noted, coming out in favor of Barack Obama in the 2008 election. It took Malmer Stenergard to point out on Agenda that by the time of the 2020 election, Löfven had also become cautious, waiting until Biden had safely won before talking about how terrible Trump had been. This didn't stop Annika Strandhäll, the Social Democrat health minister turned social media attack dog, from trying to score political points. Kristersson cannot choose between Trump and Harris, she said on X. The political right is trying to make out that prime ministers do not take sides. That is absolutely wrong. Reinfeldt supported Obama and Stefan supported Hillary. Not being able to choose between Trump and Harris is weak. Politically, attacking the moderates for not backing Harris makes sense. According to a poll for Dagens Nyheter by Ipsos, fully 78% of Swedish voters support Harris, while only 9% support Trump. Even among supporters of the far-right Sweden Democrats, a majority, 51%, support Harris, while only 32% back Trump. I was checking this out on Bing, and I found that only one Swedish party leader, the Center Party's Muharrem Demirok, has tried to take advantage of this, traveling to the U.S., where he has visited election events for both the Democrats, where he pictured himself in a Harris Walls t-shirt, and for Trump. The Sweden Democrat MPs Tobias Andersson and Josef Fransson posted on Instagram from a road trip between Washington, D.C. and Georgia, taking time out to meet with the Leadership Institute, a training vehicle for the U.S. conservative right. Jimmy Åkesson, the Sweden Democrats leader, has said he cannot decide between the two candidates. But Mattias Karlsson, the Swedish MP who founded the far-right think tank Oikos, has described Trump's boastfulness and arrogance as fundamentally un-Swedish, admitting in February that if he had a gun to his head, he would vote Harris. According to the Dagens Nyheter newspaper, Sweden's civil servants have been preparing for the upheaval of a Trump victory. Top civil servants, it reported, have formed an election working group, which is collecting information from across government on the likely impacts, such as trade tariffs, and the impact on NATO and the war in Ukraine. Victor Barth Krohn, the political commentator for the Expressen newspaper, described a Trump victory as Kristersson's worst nightmare, undermining the triumph of Sweden finally gaining NATO membership on his watch into something very different. Kristersson, he said, had been saluted by President Biden when Sweden joined NATO 8 months ago and celebrated in Washington. The Swedish right wing had reached its final goal. Sweden was integrated into the U.S.-led Western world after all the lost decades in Olof Palme's long shadow. And now, Donald Trump? Might the mothership itself cut the line to its dinghy before one has even had time to start sailing in earnest? It would also, he added, provide a dire warning of the risks of the sort of cooperation with the far right that props up Kristersson's government. The development in the American right is also generally a horror vision for the moderates. A crude populist stream gains entry, proves impossible to control, and soon takes over everything. What else has been going on in Swedish politics? Wind parks. The government has said no to 13 offshore wind parks in the Baltic Sea, with Defense Minister Paul Johnson saying that they would have unacceptable consequences for Sweden's military defense. Apparently, wind farms disrupt radar, making it more difficult for Sweden's Patriot missile defense systems to defend the country from ballistic missile attacks. Green Party leader Daniel Heldin called the decision irresponsible, given that the farms could have provided new electricity equal to Sweden's entire annual electricity use. Centre Party energy spokesperson Richard Nordic called it a death blow for the electrification of Sweden. Sanitary pads. The Liberal Party called for free tampons and sanitary pads to be provided in Swedish schools, copying a policy that Tim Walz, the U.S. vice president candidate, has been successful with in Minnesota. Rolex watches. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson hailed a new law which came into force on Friday, which allows police to strip suspected criminals of expensive watches, jewelry, and other valuables if they cannot document where the money came from. It was, he said, the biggest criminal policy reform since the criminal code came into force. He omitted to point out that it had originally been the former Social Democrat government which launched the proposal. Snitch law. No fewer than 14 of Sweden's 21 regional governments are opposed to the so-called snitch law, or angiverilagen, which could mean that health workers, social workers, and teachers become duty-bound to report any illegal immigrants they encounter in their work to the police. When it comes to municipalities, 44 out of 195 said they were against the proposal, including Stockholm, Malmö, and Gothenburg, and only 3 who said they were in favor: the moderate-led Ale, Skurup, and Vadstena. PM until at least 2030. Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson has told an interviewer for TT that he hopes to remain as Prime Minister until at least 2030 and sees his government's cooperation with the far-right Sweden Democrats as a success. It's been a stable government the whole time, no weird scandals, no one forced to resign. We win all our parliamentary votes, he said. New left-wing party. Christopher Lundberg, the former Left Party politician, who was kicked out after expressing support for the terror-classed Palestinian group PFLP, has said he plans to start a new political party which will seek to enter parliament, potentially wasting crucial votes for the left side of politics. Center opening to Sweden Democrats? The student wing of the Center Party said it wants the party to consider talks with all parties, including the far-right Sweden Democrats, saying the party had lost its way and painted itself into a corner. So, you guys, what do you think about all this drama going down in Sweden? It's like, the more you learn, the crazier it gets. And, hey, don't forget to share this with a friend and leave a comment down below. We want to hear what you think about this wild story.